Hello there, Di here. This quick video is just about showing you the cards I've made from the Mixed Media Morsels sample pages that I've been playing with over the last few weeks. Turning them into actual projects or an actual item was quite important. I tend to play with these things and then just stash them away, and I'm determined this year that I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to use them up fairly soon after I make them so that I can keep the decks cleared and move on to new things with a clear conscience, if you like. I'll just quickly go through these as they are. This first little one isn't really part of the mixed media techniques, although it is a technique that Kat uses where she swipes up any unused paint. So she produces journal pages and file cards and all sorts of things, bits of scrap paper, whatever. And it's a great idea. I usually just wipe it all up and feel quite wasteful. So this was one of them. I just swiped up some blue and it was quite thick and textured, so I dabbed on with a stencil some little clouds, punched out some scrappy cardstock balloons, made a little congratulations and attached it to a card. So a nice cheerful congratulations card for a child perhaps. And those of you with the Stampin' Up! Owl punch will recognise that the balloons and the arms, the little pinky skinny arms, are made with the owl punch. So that's that little one. That's just using up one of the scraps that were left over. This little one is just a tiny portion of watercolour paper that I had left over from playing with the acrylic paint and plastic wrap, and I quite like the colours, and so I've got that on a card base, and I haven't actually done anything with that, as you can see, except that I've embossed around with black metallic embossing powder around the absolute frame of the little watercolour piece before I matted it up onto the bits of coloured paper. I thought this will make quite a nice masculine card once I decide what I'm going to put on the front of it. These two, the greeny ones, I'll get rid of these envelopes, they're a bit of a pain. These are the two, this was one piece of the green and blue alcohol ink and acrylic paint background pieces that I made, and this one on the left I splattered with some gold, added some paper ink dye leaves, a little fun foam happy, give it some dimension, and I'll send that off to a friend. A little bit of gold thread tucked in underneath the little metal flower there with a brad. That actually goes through the textured piece with a bit of fun foam underneath to hide the back of the brad, or to accommodate the back of the brad. And because that's so firmly fixed, I was able just to wrap the gold thread and click it in under the edge of the brad and the back of the flower, and it's well adhered without me having to fight, as I usually have to, with the thread. I'm not real good at making little thread nests. You can see there. The little happy fun foam die cut I simply adhered onto a piece of dark blue cardstock, the same dye, to give it a little bit of, to make it more manageable when I was adhering it down. This little one I splattered with white acrylic paint and used a memory box. I think it's Darling Poppies, if I get it, remember the dye. I die cut from the green cardstock the outline, and then did die cut it again on some watercolour paper, watercoloured it all, and just popped it back into the green outline. because the watercolour paper is a little heavier than the cardstock that I used. It just snapped back in very satisfactory and it's very well held. Just a simple little happy birthday. It's from my stash with some artichoke sprinkles to give it a little bit of gleam. So that's those two. I was quite pleased with those greens because green isn't one of my favourite colours, and so it's a bit of a challenge. These two are from the One Piece again. This one I left fairly plain. All I did with that was to scrunch on with a very bristly little dry brush some acrylic paint around the centre of the flowers, circles, and dabbed on with the end of a toothpick in some green acrylic paint. Just dab that around to make some little green dimensions and a blob of black enamel accents in the centre. Matted it up, thinking of you little ones. So that's quite a nice little card to send off to somebody that needs a card. This one I fiddled with a little bit more. It's a bit more detailed. I went around the shapes with both yellow and some orangey acrylic paint. Added the petals in yellow acrylic paint fairly thickly. Again, dabbed on some green with the end of the toothpick. Black enamel accents just the same, and then before I put the black enamel on, I went over it with my finger and some Rub and Buff gold just to give it a bit of a gleam. And I don't know if you can see it there, but it has got quite a nice gloss to it. And before I matted it up, I simply went round the edges of this also with some gold, both pieces with some gold embossing powder, and heat set that. You have to be a little bit careful when you're heat setting the powder when you're using this multimedia, because you don't want to melt any of these other bits, but if you do it carefully, it's fine. And I think it gave it a bit of a lift. Having that touch of gold on it as well made it a little bit more special. I'd use this to send off to a friend. I use a lot of hello and thinking of you cards, so I use them to send notes to friends. That's it. Thanks for watching.